Hello there! We are learning about FileMaker today. My name is Matt Petrowski, and we are going to be learning about FileMaker's custom menus. This is our series that we're going through, our beginner series, and we are going to be taking a look at that right there, the custom menus. So let's head into that and start to take a look, because that's what I know you are interested in. So I'm going to switch over to my desktop here, and we're going to take a look. Now, the file that I am starting with here is the contacts file. And in order to follow along on this video, it really doesn't matter what file you start with. If you want to, I'll just close this temporarily. If you want to go to the file menu and choose either a new solution or getting started, it really doesn't matter, because FileMaker's custom menus are something that it's really something you get to later as a beginner, but it's really good to learn it as a beginner, because then you know some of the shortcomings of FileMaker's own menus, and we're going to take a look at that. So you can choose this get started, and what might happen depending on your version of FileMaker is a dialog will come up, and you can pick any one of them. As I scrolled down, I picked the contacts solution. So if yours looks different, then you can choose that if you'd like to follow along. All right, so I'll choose the open here, and that will come up and give me my launcher, and I'll open up that contacts file again. All right, so first off, custom menus. They allow you to take complete control of the menu system. That is everything that you see up here. You can completely wipe it out and change all of them if you'd like. Some of them will persist. You have to have, at least on the Macintosh, you'll have to have an application menu, I believe a help menu. We'll take a look at the menus that will persist. All of the management that we're going to be doing is here in the Manage area. And of course, this is what we're going to be taking a look at right here, custom menus. So as I select this and it comes up, we will get the custom menu dialog box. Now, just before I go through this dialog box and we talk about how it applies or works within your file, we need to take a look at some of FileMaker's native menus, which if you're not aware of them, can be pretty dangerous. There's one in particular, and we'll discard the changes right here. Now, in a previous video, I was working with this database, and we really only have one record. This is our status area where we can see how many records there are. I'm going to create one other record in this file, and I will give it a phone number of, 800-555, and for this one, 1414. So we have two records in our system right now, and I'll switch between them. There's the first one right there. I did that with a keyboard shortcut, if you'd like to know that. On the Macintosh, if you use the Control key and the up and down arrow, it will actually flip between records. That may be Control on Windows as well. You can see that the indicator will move right here as I do that. I'm just using the Control key, and you can see that it's flipping between those records. So if you don't know about that shortcut, very handy as you're flipping through records, especially when you're developing. So we have one super dangerous function or menu command that FileMaker has available to users. So if you're a newer FileMaker developer and you don't know about this and users find it, you can have a pretty bad situation. Now, that one item is actually, we need to scroll down right here, this one right here. This menu command that you find under the records menu when you're in FileMaker's browse mode, that's the mode that most users will always be in, except for find mode, is replace field contents. And you can see that FileMaker even gives us a shortcut key of command equals, as if that's something that we would potentially want to do frequently or want users to do. I can't ever think of any time that I've ever wanted users to be able to choose this option or this option for that matter. They really have to know what's going on, because if I select into this field right here and I hit that command equals, what's going to happen is FileMaker is going to bring up this dialog box that's going to look like this, and it basically says replace the field contents. And users don't read this. They don't read permanently replace the contents of the field in mobile of the two records, and this could say 2,000 records, with the current found set, of the current found set. That means for every record now, if I accidentally click the replace button, oh no, what just happened? Well, I just completely blew out all of my data in that field, and it is 100% irreversible. You cannot switch it. You cannot go back to it. The only thing you can do is revert to a backup. And that's a normal menu command that's available within FileMaker. So this video is not meant to scare you. But as I switch here between the records, you can see, in fact, that one phone number has been applied to all records in the current found set. And that's not a very good thing. So as a developer, I'd like to know that I can take control over the menus. And at the very least, I can get rid of that menu, or I can change what it does. I can still work with menus the way that FileMaker presents the menus, or I can create my own complete set of menus. So let's do that. We're going to go to the File menu, we're going to go to Manage, and we're going to go to Custom Menus. Once we are here, we are going to see a dialog, and I'll back this off so that we can see the whole dialog. This dialog is actually just a bit confusing, and here is why. In fact, I would say that this dialog for new users and the security dialog are confusing enough that users just tend to avoid them. Now, if you think about a menu system, in most applications, there's guidelines that both Windows, Microsoft, Apple have as well in terms of what are the core menus that most applications have. And the easiest way to see that is just to zoom out to FileMaker and zoom into the menu. These are the three menus that most applications start with and have: File, Edit, and View. So we're going to replicate a menu system using just those three menus as an example. If we want to completely replicate FileMaker's whole menu system and just hijack or take over some certain menus like that dangerous replace, we can do that, but FileMaker has actually made it more difficult for us. We can see right here that in this dialog, FileMaker has its default menus, the standard FileMaker menus. Now in FileMaker, everything with the brackets around them means that that's FileMaker protected. FileMaker doesn't allow us to get rid of that. You can see that we cannot delete, but also we cannot duplicate. For some reason, FileMaker took this away. And in versions prior to 14, it may have been taken out in 14 or 15, but in 13, you were able to simply select this menu, click duplicate, and it would duplicate the whole menu for you. Wonderful. We don't have that anymore. I don't know why they removed it, but they did. Now, in all of the beginner series, we've been seeing that we have, in this dialog, we have this view by where we can see the menu set name, the custom order, the creation order, and so forth. This dialog, in my opinion, is actually presented in reverse. So the two areas that we have here up at the top are custom menu sets. That's a whole menu that you are going to apply at a given time. Now, you apply this when the file starts up, or you apply it when the user goes to a specific layout. Those are the two times that you can actually have a menu come on within FileMaker's dialog system. Now, when you consider FileMaker's scripting system, you can, at any point in time when you write a script, completely change the menu to whatever you want. So there's two of those default options. The first one is, what's the menu that I want to use, or the whole menu set that I want to use when the file starts? Or what's the menu set that I want to switch to when a user lands on a particular layout, a la a view? Or when do I want to dynamically control when the menu changes via a script? Anytime I want in my complete control. Now, I said that this dialog is a bit in reverse because we have, first you want to create the menu set. That's the name of the whole menu that you're menu set of all of the individual menus that you're going to load. But then you have custom menus, or the actual menus themselves, like File is a menu, and Edit is a menu, and View is a menu. Now the trick here, and the reason that I say that this is reversed, is FileMaker puts you into this custom menu sets first. So let's take a look at what we have. Options, that's pretty obvious. Create, edit, duplicate, delete. I don't need to explain those to you. But we do have this item right here, default menu set for this file. This is the setting that you set so that the first time when the file loads up, it's going to load what menu. And this is where you're able to make a selection once you've created a new menu set of what's going to be loaded. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to create a new menu set, and we're going to call this menu set something that makes sense to our application. Did you hear that? Application. So just call it application menu if you want, or application menu set. Now there's a couple of other menu sets that I have created, and one of the tips that I give in my advanced development is you can also create a developer menu set. This is a really cool idea because what happens is you can determine when the file opens. If you've opened it as the developer, FileMaker has a custom function that says get current account privilege set. Well, if this file is being opened with a full access, a la a developer access privilege set, you can tell FileMaker as part of its startup to switch to a developer menu, and then you can create your own individual menus that help you as the developer that other users never even see. It's just for you to make the environment more comfortable. We're not going to create that in this video. You can look that up on the FileMaker magazine site if you're interested. We are going to create an application menu set. Now, once we've created this menu set, which is going to be the collection of all of the individual menus like File, View, Edit, etc., we go down here and we click on Add. Add makes sense. But as we scroll through this list, we have a problem. And this is the reason why I say that this whole dialog is done in reverse. There's nothing for us to really add except for all of these FileMaker protected menus. And some of them look familiar, but some of them we may not be familiar with. But the one menu that I don't find in here is I don't find a File menu, and I don't find an Edit menu, and I don't find a View menu. So this is why this particular dialog is probably confusing to a lot of users. And it goes like this. You can't add to a menu set any menus that don't exist. So even after I click OK here and the menu set has been created, I don't have any menus to add into it. That's why I say this is in reverse. We have to go to this second tab, the custom menus, and this is where we have to start to create menu items, or menus themselves that can be added to the menu set. This is why it's very confusing to me why they took away that duplicate button, because if the duplicate button was there, you'd be able to duplicate FileMaker's whole menu set and then just take out what you don't want or add a few things that you do want. So we're going to click Create. Now here's a great option. FileMaker does give us the ability to start with an empty menu, meaning we're going to name it whatever we want, or we can start with a standard FileMaker menu. And there they are, File, Edit, and View. So those are the three that we're going to add to our application menu. I'm going to add the File menu. And the cool thing is it starts off with all of FileMaker's pre-existing menus. So this is me creating a menu set, but just using FileMaker's existing menus as a template to start off with. From here, I would be able to actually get rid of anything that I didn't want to get rid of. Now, we're not going to be adding the records menu in here, but if I was replicating the full FileMaker menu set, I would have the records menu added. I would have to look at all of the menus up at the top and then add those and take out the ones that I don't want. So for example, if I don't want users to be able to import and export records on the menu, no big deal. I'll just click delete and I'll get rid of them. And they won't be there. And we'll take this one off as well. Now the problem is if I accidentally deleted one of those and I want to get them back, well, that's not so easy because you may not be familiar with all of the settings that were in this area. And we're going to go through these a little bit in order to explain them, but let's add our other menus so that we can get our menu set showing and working. We won't worry about this dialog for right now. We'll come back to it. All right, so I'm going to create another one, and that's going to be the Edit menu. And I'll just click OK. And I'll create another one, and I'll create View. Now, you notice I'm just leaving the word copy right here. And I'm doing that for a reason because it's basically easier for me to do right now, but let's go ahead and modify that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the word copy and I'm going to jump to the beginning of this particular naming, and I'm going to call it App View. And I'm doing that because the prefix, what it's going to do is it's going to sort these specific menus according to this prefix. So if you think about that developer menu that I suggested, well, if I put dev in front of those, then that would basically sort or group all of them together. So let's quickly do that for the edit and the other one. So I'm going to add app edit, and I'm going to have app file. So now that I've duplicated these three FileMaker menus, and maybe I've taken out the menu items that I don't want, now is when I can go back to the custom menu sets and I can actually add the individual menus that I want to the menu set. That's what's confusing, I think. Custom menus, menu items, menu set, and distinguishing between them. So when I double click now, I can actually click Add, scroll to the bottom, and there they all are. App File, App Edit, App View. Now, if you want to go and find those within this area and you just want to have them named File, Edit, View, and leave the word copy on, it really doesn't matter if you're not going to use any more than, say, 3 different menus. You don't have to apply this prefix, but I just happen to know the prefix helps you sort them and group them together. So I'm going to add the app file, click Add again, scroll to the bottom, add the edit, click Add again, and click the View. Now when we have this particular menu set, this is where we can say, when does this particular menu set get used? And if you remember, I stated there's 2 places that you can do this within FileMaker. The first one is down here. When this particular FileMaker file is opened, what menu set do I want to use? FileMaker's standard menus, or do I want to use my own application menu set? So by setting this, what we can see is that when we close this file, which I just did, we'll go reopen it. I'm just going to reopen by simply going to the recents. It's much easier. Open the contacts. Notice that FileMaker's menu completely changed. We now have File, Edit, View. But notice the menus that still exist that we didn't actually add that are Tools. That's if you're using FileMaker Advanced. Those will always show up. Help menu will always be there. And then also the Application menu, which we have right there. So we can change these values that are within here. We can actually take control of it and add this menu to our menu set. So any of the menus that FileMaker requires us to have, we can add those as well. We'll go to Manage, Custom Menus, go to our Application menu set, and we can click on Add. And then what we're going to find within this dialog, we should find, maybe it's not here. We can actually replicate the FileMaker menu, and we probably need to do that by, this is what's confusing again, going back to that custom menus, clicking Create, and then here we can see the FileMaker Pro menu and the Help menu. So this is where you would be able to take control over these, but you're going to have to add copies of them to your menu set. So let's add that, and then we will also add the Help. And we now need to add these to our menu sets. And I'll just leave the copy on there. So we go back to the menu set, double click to edit our application menu. Now we click Add, scroll to the bottom, add our FileMaker Pro copy. Notice that here we have a little lock icon. The lock means that we cannot change certain items in that menu. And we'll click Add, and we'll scroll down, and we'll add the Help copy, and there as well you're going to find the lock icon. But what we've done is we've now taken over and established a menu set where we are able to control all of the different menus in this, aside from we can change the About if we want to. In the Help, we can actually change all of the different help items and link it up to our own help layouts or our own help files. It really is under our full control. So the second area where you're going to be able to set what happens when a menu set becomes active is on the layout itself. Let's take a look at that. Going into layout mode with Command or Control L, we're going to be able to access that option right here under the Layouts menu under Layout Setup. So on the Layout Setup dialog box, this is the second of the 2 places where we can control a menu in terms of when it shows up with regards to FileMaker outside of being able to script it. So here we would be able to say we want to use the application menu set. So here comes the question. How many menu sets do I create? Boils down to how many menu sets do you want to manage? For each menu set that you're going to create, if you think about your solution and you tell yourself, well, I've got 5 different primary areas of my solution. Do you want to manage 5 different complete menu sets? Or do you want to find out what's common within that menu set and then maybe show or hide certain menu items, certain options that users can choose out of those menus. I would suggest that that's the better approach rather than having 5 completely different menu sets, because it gives you a lot of work to manage. So I'm personally not as fond of using this option of setting a new menu set on the layout. I tend to prefer to create a menu set, such as the application menu set, apply that to the file when the file is going to open, and then choose when I show or hide certain menus. So let's take a look at where you do that. That's all going to be under the control of the individual menus themselves when you are actually editing the menu items. So we're not going to be double clicking here on our application menu set. We're going to be doing all of our modification on the individual menu items within the actual menus themselves. So here's where we're going to say on the file menu, I want to have this show up. On the edit menu, I want to have that show up. This is where we get into those individual items. Now there's a lot going on in this dialog box, but it's really pretty simple. You really only have 2 options when it comes down to what the menu can do. The menu can do what FileMaker already has baked into FileMaker's environment in terms of what it's going to do, or you can run your own script. Now, your own script is going to be your own degree of automation. That's anything that you find within FileMaker's menus and dialogs that facilitate the automation of a process. These are our options. We can actually change the menu title. You can see that one right there. But likewise, we can override the title, and the cool thing is we can do it with a calculation. Remember, anything in FileMaker where you see the specify option, you're going to have access to FileMaker's calculation dialog box. That means that if you want the file name itself to actually change based on the language that's being used within the application, you can do that. If you want it to say, instead of files, say file something else, of course you can override it and simply just type it in right here. File big time, whatever you want it to say. It's an override. Now this install when as an option basically is telling FileMaker, when do I want to show this particular menu? This is where you get the control that I was using that example of, do I want 5 complete menu sets, or do I want to be able to control when this menu actually becomes available? Well, look at this. The install when currently says 1. Now I wish FileMaker would have put true, because true and false are the same as 1 and 0 in FileMaker, but they did use 1. So here with the specify dialog box, you're able to control when this menu set shows. So if we think about that example that I gave you of get current privilege set name equals, and if I put in the full access definition that FileMaker has, what I'm saying here on this calculation is I'm saying, really, I only want the file menu to actually show when the user with their current privilege set is logged in is full access, meaning I only want this menu to show up when it's a developer. That's pretty cool because you can base it on anything within your whole solution of when this menu actually shows up. Now you get to include or get to control when this actually applies. Does it apply in browse mode? Does it apply in find mode? And does it apply in preview mode? If I uncheck this option of preview mode, this menu will pretty much never be used in preview mode because I'm not allowing it to. If I do want to control it based on mode, I also have the option to use FileMaker's calculation functions because it as well is able to tell me when a certain mode. So this can be a little bit redundant here. You can do it both in code or you can do it with the actual checkbox. So there's your power with regards to when an actual menu shows up based on any conditions that you want. The latter part of this dialog box is based on what do you want to have happen when that menu item is selected. And again, I stated you get to say, do I want it to just regularly do what FileMaker would normally do, or do I want to run my own script? So here on this get started, you can see that it is based on an existing command. And we can choose specify, and specify is basically going to come up with a list of all of FileMaker's built-in menus. So if you wanted get started to, for some reason, go into find mode like it would on the view menu, you can do that. Any of the rest of FileMaker's menu options are available when you want to change what they actually do. Now the menu type item right here, you can see that you get the same thing that you have in, I keep wanting to scroll in there, within the manage value lists, within the scripts, etc. We have a separator, which we can add. In this case, the dash really doesn't do anything. We can say it's based on an existing command, or we can choose this option of a submenu. Now, a submenu simply means that this is then going to actually show other items that you're going to need to link it to, and that would be yet another menu. So you click specify here for the submenu, and if we were to scroll down, that's where we would actually find whatever submenu we want. So each menu that you create, it doesn't have to be added into an actual custom menu set. It can actually be part of a submenu as well. So that's where you would make that option right there if you're going to create it. And I highly suggest in this particular case, you know how we added that prefix of app or prefix of dev? Add the prefix of submenu, because these names that you use when you name the custom menus, it's not the name that shows in the menu. That's the name that internally is used for you as the developer. The menu name that shows, that's right there where you're talking about the menu title itself. This is what shows. This is for you as the developer in order to make sense of custom menus. Now, the third option that we have here of this command, when it's specified on the command, as we zoom in, you could see that it was already based on an existing command. That's one of FileMaker's existing menus, but we can also choose to override these behaviors, and we can assign a keyboard shortcut. Now let's see if I can find one right here where it's based on, I believe, the perform script. That's what I'm looking for. Let's talk about the override. We can override the name. This is yet a second override, but this is an override for the menu item itself, not for the menu title that's up in the menu bar. We can apply or override FileMaker's shortcuts when we take control over the menus. And there it is. That's what I'm looking for. We can say we want to perform an action. So what I can do is I can choose this action right here, and there it is right there. There's the magic of custom menus. Any script that you create in the scripting workspace, if it's generate report, generate weekly report or annual report or update all inventory, whatever the automated process is, this is where you're able to make your selection, specify whatever script you want, say OK, and that's what's going to happen when this system is selected. Now you notice that I can turn off the base existing. I really don't need to base this menu anymore on the existing system. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm taking control over the close menu, and I'm going to perform my script. Now within that script, you would probably have the script step of close file, but you'd be able to do whatever else you want at this point. And I can also use this keyboard shortcut, which would be the same. FileMaker will come up with the prompt of what menu do you want to use. So I'm able to press any keyboard key right now. You can see that I've assigned the command W. I say OK, and that's what I would be able to do. This unknown, actually I should say based on, just so that I get the actual name itself. But I would be able to change that name right there and simply call it close. Hopefully I didn't go over that too fast. Did you notice that when you base it off of an existing menu command, that uses the name that FileMaker already has for that item, which in this case was close. If I don't want to base this menu item off of FileMaker's, I'm going to need to actually check the box to name it the same thing. But here again, the power is specify. Every time we see specify, I would be able to have this say whatever I want. So if I was creating a system that was going to be global internationalized, then I would be able to use the word close for English or cerrado for Spanish, or any other language that I wanted to specify. This could be dynamic, and it could be based on FileMaker's calculation engine, which in turn can be based on a table of data, such as a translation table. So that's the power of custom menus. Now you can see down here at the bottom, we have the exact same option that we had up at the top when it comes to the menu itself. You get to determine when this menu should actually show. And here at the bottom, this install when along with the specify actually means that I am able to control when this individual item on the menu actually shows up. So hopefully you've been able to see you can take custom menus pretty far, and you can get as granular as you need to get when you want to take full control over FileMaker's menu system. So my task for you is, if you'd like, follow along with this process. Make note of FileMaker's menu system. Do it for browse mode, layout mode, and then I think those are probably the only two that you need to do. You can, say for example, take a screenshot of the menus, and my suggestion is replicate FileMaker's whole menu system and then see which menus you can actually take out, such as the replace all, or which ones you can hijack and make them do what you want them to do according to your scripts. Once you're familiar with custom menus, and if you have this principle down, you'll be able to add the File, Edit, and View menu, assign it as the default application menu set for your file, and then start to build menus as you evolve your solution. It's the alternative to teaching users how to actually use FileMaker using FileMaker's native default menus. Now, there's a few things that you need to know before we wrap this up. I can see we're at 30 minutes, and I'm going to be wrapping this up. You need to know as a developer how to get back to FileMaker's menus when you're actually working on your solution. So I'm working in my solution, and this really is only available within FileMaker Advanced. You can see right here that we have these custom menus. You're going to need to be using FileMaker Advanced just in order to use custom menus, and this is how you basically switch back. If I am currently working with the application menu set and I want to switch back to the FileMaker menu set in browse mode, then I'm going to select this standard FileMaker menus. That'll put all of the menus back, but it doesn't mean that they're going to stay that way. If I switch to another layout that changes to a menu set, that would change to the new menu set. Or if I come back here, if I close this file each time, then that's what happens. So I'm going to suggest that as part of your startup script, which we haven't even taken a look at, that'll be another video, you'll be able to say, if I'm logging in and I'm the developer with full access, I want to turn on this menu set. Maybe it's FileMaker standard menus, or maybe it's your own developer menu. But here's how you change it within a script. We're going to open the Manage Scripts, and we're going to make a new script where we are going to call it Toggle Menu. Now, this Toggle Menu script is going to make a determination of when and who could actually toggle this menu. The script step is Install Menu Set. And you can see right here that you get the options to choose from any menu set that you've created or FileMaker's standard menu set. Now, the option that we're taking a look at that we're most interested in is this one right here, Use as File Default. Once this is set to on and it's run within a script, what happens is that means within this script has said, we're going to use FileMaker's standard menus, and they are going to be the standard menus until something says otherwise. And the two things that would say otherwise would be if you go to a layout and that layout specifically says use this menu set, or another script says I want you to change to a menu set. So the way that that works is if you have your application menu set so that that's what loads and what other users see, but you want to install the standard FileMaker menus or your own developer menu, you're going to have to use a script step, typically on startup, and you use that option of using it as the default on the file. And that means that when you close the file, that startup script will run. If you go to other layouts and they do not have a menu set set, this menu set will persist as long as you're working in FileMaker. So now is the time, if you have any questions and you're watching this stream live, you can actually get those ready for the chat, and I'll be able to answer those. Otherwise, if you're watching this after the fact, then you can basically add your comments down at the bottom. I get notified when those comments come in, and I do my best to answer them as much as possible. So let's switch over to our video chat, see if we've got any questions. Looks like I must have done a good job in this video of actually explaining custom menus. We've got one that came in. Thanks, HBH. I'll keep making the videos as long as people want to keep watching them. I also have more advanced and intermediate videos if you're interested, and you can find those over at FileMakerMagazine.com. So Christian asks, is it possible to get accidentally locked out when removing the Manage menu? Good question. When the Manage is actually taken out, the Manage menu, when this is no longer available because you've either removed it from the File menu or, well, this actually will only show up when the account that's logged in is full access. Let's say that. Unless you create a privilege set that gives that privilege set the ability to manage database. I think that might be available. I know that the ability to modify and edit layouts and modify and edit scripts is a privilege that you can assign, but we'd actually have to take a trip into security really quickly and see if that's actually a possibility. It may be, if we use detailed setup here and we take a look at a privilege set, just any of them. Let's see. I'm looking for things right here, printing, exporting. I think the only account that can actually get into defined database is full access. As far as I'm aware, I don't think that that's a privilege that you can delegate. And in that regard, anytime that you're logging in with FileMaker Advanced, you will almost always have the Tools menu. And the Tools menu will always allow you to switch to the standard FileMaker menus. So as long as you're able to get into a FileMaker with a full access account, then you will be able to switch to the standard FileMaker menus as long as you're using a copy of FileMaker Advanced. If you're using a copy of FileMaker Pro, which I haven't used in quite some time, you may not be able to do it there. You just have to have a copy of Advanced. Good question, and there are things you can do that cause yourself some problems, but that one shouldn't be as long as you have Advanced and the tools. Hey, Lee. Lee asks, on the custom menu set, the bottom line should be 1 as that was representing a true or a set. Yes. Anytime that you see anywhere, in fact, that's a really good question. When we are in FileMaker's Manage Custom Menus, anywhere where we see something that FileMaker has added, let's go to, the custom menu itself. This 1, or if we select on an item and we scroll down to the bottom here and we see install when 1, if you want to think of 1 as true, true and 1 in FileMaker language are the exact same thing. Install when true, true is always going to be true. That means it's going to get installed because there isn't really a condition that I've specified here and there's no condition that I've specified here. And you'll find that FileMaker, behind the scenes, it's really pretty interesting. FileMaker actually just has its own calculations that they compose. And my fault on not switching that. Let me switch the video here to the video. There we go. Sorry about that. My fault. I get so carried away with the explanation. The install when true here and the install when true here, those are the settings that we're talking about. Those conditions are true. Sorry about not showing that on the video. Let's switch over, see if we've got any more questions coming in. Discard my changes here. HBH asks, are there some best practices you can recall whenever using custom menus? Best practices is, I think I've given them to the best of my ability in this video. Using prefixes helps things sort out. The best practice with regards to the initial menus are to follow the human interface guidelines that people typically need to use, which is the file, the edit, and view. From there, the rest of the menus are up to you. Always specifying a help is a good thing to add to your menu system. You're always going to need to have that application menu just because FileMaker will put it there. If you want to add menus to this item, that's when you have to add it to your custom menu set. Other than those items, the menus really come down to what you want to provide for users. Most users, from my experience, they're visually oriented. It's what they see in the user interface. And if you hide too many things in the menu system, then they sort of become obscured. But for your power users, definitely if you've got those power users, I always love to take advantage of shortcut keys. There's so many things that you can do with shortcut keys and with modifiers. In fact, in FileMaker, you can look at the fact of whether or not the Option key is held down or the Command key is held down or the Shift key, so that when you tell users, just like we find in FileMaker's own menu system, When we go to the edit menu and we hold down the option key, you can modify the behavior of a particular menu, and you can give this to, say, managers or other people. So I wouldn't say that's a best practice, but it's definitely worth knowing that you can do in custom menus. You really get to take full control and make FileMaker your own application. So I think that's the best I have there on best practices. All right, so we're running up close to the 40 minutes. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably wrap this video up. One of the things that I like to tell everyone that watches my videos over at the magazine site is that I always wish them much luck and happy file making. If you're interested and you want to be notified on YouTube, you can probably click the subscribe here, and the next video in the series will actually be showing up here. So thanks for the thumbs up, any likes, and any positive feedback and comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye-bye.